welcome back to the Dual Alliance podcast with your host Alicia Solomon and myself, Megan Hines, where every week we talk the challenge. And once again, we're back to talk about the Challenge 40 Battle of a New Era, episode 9, where the era of one comes out victorious, and there is a alliance that is finally cracking and showing its true colors.
Could never have been more happier that the downfall of the Vacation Alliance occurred this week. To be honest, I mean, it was the signs were there from last week, but given this week and how it all happened, I couldn't been more ecstatic. Christmas definitely came early.
It surely did because Rachel comes back in the house as the era of one and is really trying to like make her mark known more in the game as the solo person of era one. And Corey also came back in the house as a former target, and he said he has more trust in Nehemiah from Era 2 than his own era because part of his era is the core of the Vacation Alliance. So that shows where he is on that totem pole within the grand scheme of their team dynamic. And the Vacation Alliance coming to this episode was really very comfortable, given that Tori and Devin were made targets along with Casey and Kylan from Era 4. They were like, oh yeah, we feel good about winning and keeping each other safe, not realizing that if y'all lose, it's gonna be a bloodbath. But Tori's like, I want to keep Casey safe if me and Devin win because we want to keep us stronger and moving forward and get to the end with another. But with that, like Bananas also knew that because three members of the Education Alliance are in the target group, it's time to break them up. And that is emotion that's the feel like from everyone else from like the other eras and it's perfect timing. And it's like damn, like Kylan's just like there, but he's like moving as an individual in that group of sorts. He might replace Josh at the end of the day.
Well, I would hope not, just because I think Kylan has a little bit more sense to be a replacement for Josh in this situation. And we see how Josh and his relationships and his situation kind of made him the enemy for his group and made them question him. And also, just, I mean, when you have an opportunity to take a shot, you take it, you don't miss. And I think that's what we saw this week and how between the mindsets of era one and era two, they understand like when you get that opportunity to take that shot, you take it because when you don't have it again, and especially in the situation that Rachel was in this week, where she's the only person there. Yes, she's a strong woman and competitor and can hold her own against everyone. But at the same time, if you don't take the shot now, you're giving them an opportunity to get at you later and you're going to be a sitting duck. So I think Rachel did what she needed to do this week in terms of, the output of it. But Era 3 and Era 4 have been running the house consistently. Like it's understood. What needed to be said, is understood.
It's the open secret of the house, basically. And so this daily challenge that they are doing, it's called Bottoms Up. And Derek and Ryan had a ball once like they heard the name of it because they're like, oh, that's funny. What a coincidence. But this challenge is shows where the teams are going to attempt to answer 27 math equations, with each equation playing peekaboo basically for the correct answers. And the teams will have to receive a handheld or a foothold for the next part of the challenge. And in the next part of the challenge, they would have to be mounted on the walls of a shipping container above water. And they have to try and hold themselves on the wall for as long as possible. The team that holds on the longest will win this daily. The team with the shortest time will go straight into elimination. And the first part of it obviously is math, and math is a very complicated challenge for a lot of people on the challenge, and that proved right on this one.
I mean, math is typically not their strong suit in general. Like for a lot of people, I think there's like only a handful of people that when you see them, they're like, all right, like I could see how you can do this. But, of course, Kylan being the quote unquote human calculator, was doing everything for his team. Casey on the sideline being snarky, or in her confessional, I should say, being snarky about it and her not doing nothing on the game field. It's like, girl, please, like you're just here trying to get an A on a group project and you didn't even participate. Like, what are you even talking about? As for Rachel, she did what she can do. She was the only person there. I think she got like six complete right. So, I mean, that's something to put her, head on when everyone else had like six or seven other people and they only got like 14 to 16 to 17. So Rachel was holding her own in that first part of the challenge. And Bananas obviously giving us nothing and just whispering numbers into everyone's ear. It's like you can't complain about Ryan when you kind of do the same thing on some challenges that's not your strong suit. But I digress.
Yeah, 'cause at least Ryan, he don't be doing bullshit. But the energy doing bullshit at times during these challenges, and it's like it don't help nobody. It's just random. But like you said, like all the eras were mostly decent, but it's not a group project because Casey saying that, oh, we're gonna rely on Kylan being the calculator. It's a group project. You have to put in the work because you're annoyed that Kylan basically only got y'all like 14, and it's like six or seven of y'all still on your team. Where are their contributions? Because you can't just rely on one person to get you to the end. And that's one of my greater issues with Casey in this game, where she relies on others to help her out when she is already a able competitor. Like if you are smart, and I know you are smart, put in your time to show those smarts and show why you are a champ. Because at this point, like you're just there. You're just like Clay Thompson sitting on the sidelines. Like you gotta chill. But Era 4 got 14 of those equations correct. Era 3 also got 14 correct. Era 2 got the most in 17, and Rachel only got 6. But Rachel was by herself, and she did the best she could, like we said. Era 2 had more people who had more good smarts to get them up, but TJ saying that Era 4, y'all just got out of school. Some of them not bright, and some of them do not want to participate when they should. So I'm putting it on them for not contributing to the greater good because they could have got 17 or more because they are one of the more teams that still have people.
I mean, for sure, but a lot of them are not originally from the challenge real world kind of situation. Like they come from Survivor and Big Brother. So they're playing a community quote unquote game. It's not like they are, trying to, they're playing an individual game at the end of the day. But I think they take that competitiveness from those shows and bring it onto this show to try to implement it in. Again, for people who are like Casey and Josh, some of it just does not work in the long run for them.
Yeah, I get that. It's just it don't like you said, it doesn't work within the grand scheme of what this show is. So Rachel is the first person to go up to do the shipping container portion of this. Era 4 will go second, Era 3 will go third, and Era 2 will go fourth. And for Rachel, she really held her own. Granted, when it first started, when she was up there, she was very uncomfortable because the footholds are very small. But she held on for a good time, and she really used her core strength to her advantage.
For sure. I mean, I think this performance was really impressive coming off that elimination that she had against Avery. Like this one, like it was double down more impressive just, on her solo mission. And I was rooting for Rachel the whole time, not gonna hold anything about it. Like I was rooting for Rachel because she's the only one there. And honestly, when she got past the 5 minute mark, I was like, okay, girl, like you got this. Like hold on, keep it tight, like get your core together. Like I already know Rachel's in complete tip top shape, so I wasn't even worried about her endurance in terms of her upper body strength or anything like that. But there does come a time where like you have to mentally lock in because you're literally the only one there. And it's her against groups of people who have six, five, like, more people. So it's really like her against the world in this situation. And I just think that she crushed this challenge in general. And I was like super impressed.
Yeah, I was very much impressed that she really held her own. Era 4 went next, and Theo immediately dropped. Olivia fell a little bit longer afterwards, so then Jenny, Michelle, Kylan, and then Josh decided to stand on the container unknowingly, and that got him disqualified. And I'm like, how did you stand on the actual shipping container? Because you had two footholds, so how did you do that?
I think he, of course, was not thinking. And I mean, I'm not sure why he would think putting your leg down won't like get anyone's attention or somebody would notice that you're literally putting your foot down on something solid, not the rock that you're supposed to be standing on in the container. Like, just didn't make any sense to me. I don't know if he thought he was going to get a quick rest and a quick reset, but that's not how this works. So, honestly, it was just like a fluke with Josh.
Yeah. And that with him being DQ'd, Casey was the last person still holding on to the footholds in the shipping container. She didn't last too long after that, and that was gonna die for Era 4. In Era 3, Naya also immediately fell, but it wasn't as bad as Theo, so I give her a little bit props for that. Tori fell, and then it was just a guy remaining on the team, and then Corey's like, "Oh, y'all got it? Okay, I'm gonna drop." And then immediately, like probably 2 minutes or a minute afterwards, Jordan slips, and Devin, being the one person I didn't think would be the last one standing, was the last one that's holding on for life on that shipping container. But he was, to me, he was still moving. He wasn't really like fully set, and I'm like, that's interesting, but you held on.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was just fighting for his life this week in terms of him being the target and having to have that mentality to hold on. I don't think he had really any other choice, and especially seeing how everyone started dropping like flies, it was really up to him to hold on to that. So, props to him for like for doing that part of it because I think when it comes down time to it, sometimes I can forget like Devin can use his physicality like to his advantage. I think he did it earlier on in the season when you know, they had this swimming challenge. I think it was like one of the first challenges, and his boat went underwater, and he just swam the whole thing and like kind of just ran through it like that. So Devin does have the ability to use somewhat of his physicality to win challenges. However, he just couldn't do it against this girl Rachel, like the beast.
Yeah. And Era 2 went last, and Ryan, Aviv, and Derek all fell first, like back to back to back. And Bananas ended up falling, Cara fell after him, and then it was just Laurel and Nehemiah. But we already knew that Laurel was gonna fall in this challenge. I didn't know when it would happen. Like I immediately thought when I saw her sit up on that shipping container that, oh, she'll be one of the two to fall. I'm like, okay. But no, she was one of the last two people standing for Era 2, but she couldn't hold on. But were you surprised that Nehemiah was the last one standing, holding on for Era 2?
Absolutely. I don't think any, I mean, I'm gonna say anyone, but I just don't think that his name would be the person that I would think that would be the last. Like, if anyone out of him or the two of him or Laurel, I would go with her over Nehemiah, to be honest. But to his credit, like just like that do-rag, he was holding on real tight, using his quote unquote yoga that he does. I think Derek was like mentioning that how, that his Zen and his yoga and all that helped him. So I mean, shout out to Nehemiah. Nehemiah's a champ, like Nehemiah's a winner, so I'm not gonna like discredit him, but like I don't know if I was gonna like he would have been my first tip top choice.
Yeah, no, he wasn't my immediate choice either. But given the fact that Derek and Ryan were the first two to fall, and they're like Derek was one of my ones I thought would have held on, it made sense because Bennett can't hold water. He can't grip things as much for longer, and that's full on shade because that man is washed. Nehemiah really did hold it down for Era 2. But like TJ said, it always sucks to go first in the challenge, but unless you're Rachel. Rachel's final time was 14 minutes and 48 seconds. That was the longest rec time for this daily. And I'm like, damn, you did that. I think I could, like, she really did that. I'm not going to hold you. Like, that was good. That was a good showing.
That's damn near 15 minutes of holding herself up. Like, please, that was incredible.
Yeah, because we saw for each group, like, we saw up to the 5 minute mark. We never saw the times after that. So people at least got to 5 minutes for the most part, but they didn't, I don't think some of them reached at least 10. And she was able to eclipse that. So big props to Rachel. She is the winner of this daily, and she has the biggest form of like power of sorts because she's a sole vote to put in people into a nation against the loser, who happen to be Devin and Tori. And now Laurel and Ryan and Casey and Kylan have to plead their cases to Rachel to not go in against Devin and Tori. And you would think that, like, oh, like she has a relationship with Ryan. I don't think that she would have put Ryan and Laurel in because of that. And I knew what the move was from the get go.
I mean, it was a clear choice for her, obviously, to put Casey and Kylan in just because of the relationship that Casey has with Tori and Devin, and breaking up that whole friendship and alliance, quote unquote. I think the thing when we start getting into the details of this playing out, especially with Josh and Rachel's relationship kind of being not exposed but like brought to the light in terms of their relationship, because to me, when Josh first mentioned it, I think it was in his confessionals or something, I'm like, what is he making up now? Like, what relationship does he have with Rachel? And then they got more into detail that she's his trainer, and so, like, I mean, I can see how he would be a little bit more committed to trying to understand her side and not try to go like so hard for Casey, quote unquote. And I just thought that parlayed into a conversation that Casey had with Rachel, which was insane, because she basically was saying our relationship is like understood, like we have a understanding without saying anything. And it's just like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, you're not even saying anything, you're not even communicating anything, so why would she even think that just because Josh is cool with her, that relationship would automatically extend to you? Like, that's not how that works. Even though you're his number one, we've seen how Josh has moved prior to this, and you just don't know their relationship in general. So for you to just assume that because Josh and Rachel have a relationship, you're safe, is like insane. But just also, it's just like she really was so entitled. And I feel like off of that conversation or comment that she made about Jenny, not having relationships and not using it to her advantage, it's like, well, now is your time, and your relationships didn't help you, so what next? Like, it wasn't to your advantage.
Like, what have you done for yourself in the game with your relationships? Like, that's what throws me off every time with Casey. Like, you have these relationships, but they aren't, you don't use them to your advantage as much. Yes, like, they're going to keep you safe for the most part. However, what are you going to do for them in the long run? Sometimes it does help, sometimes it doesn't. But you haven't been empowered to, for the most part, save people. You have not put yourself on line for other people. You've just been sitting in the background waiting for people just to help you out. And that's not how this game works. This is not Big Brother. You can't just, oh, because my friend is friends with you, you don't talk game to that lady for her to try and help you out. Y'all don't have a relationship. Josh and Rachel have a relationship. You don't have a relationship with Rachel for you to go up to her this late in the game like, oh, what we have is like unspoken. Is it unspoken if y'all never talk to each other?
I think the key word is unspoken. Like, none of y'all spoke, so I don't know what she was even chatting about with her in that regard.
Yeah, that was just, it's weird. Like I said, it is entitlement. Man, you're not entitled to be helped by other people's. Like that's not how this game works. Jordan also said he would rather Rachel pick Laurel and Ryan because he was like, oh, Laurel wouldn't have her back, but because he's like, oh, like Era 3 and Era 4 would have her back, they would have her insulated. Not really, because she's not anyone's number one in those two groups. Like Era 3 has Devin and Tori and Jordan. That's the core of that group. And they're going to choose one another off rip. Era 4, they're just there for the ride. That's really it. So, great. Yes, they, between those two teams, have had decent showings in the challenges and they've won, but they're not going to do much to help Rachel as a party of one because they all have their own.
Of course not. She's a threat.
Yeah, because they don't have their own like relationships anyways, and they're gonna put that above her, so it doesn't help her in the long. And like you mentioned, like Josh's relationship with Rachel was put in play, but he wasn't gonna even try and like sway her to even save Casey because he was like, I understand your position in the game. I know you want to figure out your best route in the game, and I support it no matter what. We're good. He supported the decision because he didn't fight to save Casey. And I'm like, what else could Josh really do to save Casey when Casey is also a line of people that Rachel doesn't really even want to work with?
Again, Casey, she thinks she's Rachel at the end of the day. Like, Rachel is what Casey thinks she is. So I think that Casey taking that relationship, quote unquote, that Josh has, and I'm talking about physically, obviously, I'm not talking about the relationship wise, but taking the relationship that Casey and Josh have and trying to parlay it into Rachel now being included is just like it was so ridiculous from Casey. And even though Josh does flow with the wind, like he goes wherever his hair is like leading him to go. He's not stable when it comes to his relationships. Like one day he has a friendship, the other day it's not. One day he's crying about something, the other day he's not. So I'm not gonna put it all saying like Josh should have did X, Y, and Z because he clearly can be unstable. However, Casey, honestly, I don't know what more she wanted from Josh. Like the conversation that Rachel and Josh had was basically him listening to her saying, I'm going to do what's best for me and I'm going to look at it at all sides. Like I respect your opinion, I respect your relationship that you have with her, but Josh basically was like, make the best decision for yourself. Like there's nothing I can do. Cuz ultimately is he going to do? Is he going to threaten Rachel and say what? This is an individual game at the end of the day, and I'm pretty sure Rachel can take Josh on. So it's not like he's a threat to her in any way, shape, or form. So why would he even threaten her like that? And I just hated the aftermath of that conversation where Michelle was like, well, what did you say to her? And it's like, bitch, what should he have said to her? Like, come on.
Like, you want him to bogart Rachel on her own decision when she's finding her own life in the game? Like, you want him to help y'all out when y'all never helped him out? Good luck, and guys. But they go to the chamber, and Tori and Casey, they call each other brother. And she didn't say she didn't want to go against Casey in elimination. Like, y'all got it. Laurel and Ryan, they said, oh, we're not working with people, so like we got you, we can help you out. Because looking at the field, if Laurel and Ryan are still there, Ryan's not gonna be one to go against Rachel because that's his girl. Like he's not gonna go against her. Laurel isn't working with anyone really for the most part. She's just like running her own game. Like yeah, she's like cool people. Like she goes with the wind blows for the most part with her decisions with like who she is like aligned with at times, but for the most part, Laurel's by herself. So they were like, oh, we're not working, right? If you save us, we got you. You're good. And then Kylan and Casey are like, oh, Era 4, we've been like winning a lot. We could repay you if you save us and we're back in power. I don't know because if it might not be them two in power, it might be someone else on Era 4 and they don't have Rachel. So how does that work for Rachel in the long run?
I mean, I don't know. Like none of it does work to begin with, which is why the decision to have Casey and Kylan going makes the most sense. Like, yes, obviously Laurel versus Tori will get a strong women duo out of the game, but where does that leave Ryan? Because she's putting Ryan in the lines. Then essentially, I don't know what he would do against Devin, and I don't think he would win. So it's not anything for her to put that in. Like that doesn't even make any sense. And again, when you have an opportunity to take a shot, you take the shot. And that's the difference between era 1 and era 2 versus era 3 and era 4. Like sometimes they don't go for it, and that's what bite them in the end. And I think Rachel just made the most sound decision for herself, not just get these people out, because at the end of the day, if she does not choose Casey and Kylan, and something happens where now she quote unquote has to get like an IOU or have them repay, they're going to take that with a grain of salt, to be honest. I don't trust anything that anyone of them say to her in that regard about like, we'll look out for you, blah. They're looking out for themselves. They're chewing out of their own ass, trying to speak whatever it is to get and save their own ass. So I'm glad Rachel saw it for what it is. An OG kind of sees and plays the field how it's supposed to be played, and she played it correctly.
Yep, and like you said, that is it. Like after that chamber, Rachel told Kyle and Casey it's them, and Devin and friends are mad at Josh about the decision and about where his standing is in the alliance. Like Casey literally called that man a liability, and I'm like, is he a liability because he has another relationship that isn't working in your favor? No, you have to play the game a little bit better to save yourself. You can't, like I said earlier, you can't just rely on him to save your ass.
Well, maybe if she didn't lose, you wouldn't even need your quote unquote friend to save your ass to begin with. And like I mentioned earlier, the conversation that Michelle came in the room to have with Josh and be like, well, what did you say to Rachel? Did you just listen to her talk and say, like, make the best decision for yourself? Or what did you say to plead your case? And it's like, at the end of the day, that is what y'all do. Y'all sit like Michelle thinks it's survival. You sit in a tribunal or whatever and plead your case and try to do all of that nonsense. That's not how this is gonna work. Like Rachel was gonna make up her mind anyway. So I don't know what the whole bitching and complaining about from Devin and Michelle was gonna do anything but just create more mess and honestly make Josh be more alienated, which I'm not completely mad at, but it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah, because Devin is annoyed. Oh, like, oh, Josh, you've been on the side of like decisions that are against your quote unquote friend. But I'm like, what have you done for him lately? For me, and like, I don't like how Josh moves sometimes in the game, but I have to give him a little bit of slack because I'm like, what else do y'all want him to do? Like, y'all are the ones that have most of y'all the power. That man cannot win a challenge himself. He hasn't had a chance to be empowered to actually help y'all because it don't make sense. Like I get what y'all working toward, but not everybody can come along. And if Josh is alienated and he's like, I can't do as much, then so be it. Like, don't be mad at that man because he has other people that can like help him for the moment. So it's like it's very odd behavior. And Devin's like, oh, Bananas is like eating it up. I'm like, this is what that man drives on. He drives on chaos because he's like, oh, Josh had the IU to Bananas, and that was done. He's cool with Rachel. That's against B. So like you're reckoning against me, and I'm like, okay. He has to look out for himself within the game too. He can't just appease you.
Just insanity, honestly. And I thought it was funny that Laura was just in the corner listening to the whole conversation, like eavesdropping behind the scenes. Because honestly, what what else is like are they supposed to do? To be honest, and I mean, when Kylan said he doesn't owe Rachel anything after the conversation was had, like once she put him in, it's just like now I really don't owe you anything. That's the best way to look at it. To be honest, like I don't know how much or like well Kylan would have been able to use that leverage, but he may have been able to use it. I just don't think it would have worked for Casey, and that's my only like issue with how they were like dealing with it.
Yeah, that's the one like hiccup because Kylan can eventually work with Rachel, just saying anyone involved within that alliance. But after this, I think people think that Kylan is in the alliance, but he really isn't. He's just like moving where the wind goes, and that's how he plays his game. But we go to the arena, and obviously Rachel chose Kylan and Casey to go against Devin and Tori, and they are playing a game called Cable Connections Showdown, where they have to unravel wires and use them to light up signs that show the 40 seasons of the challenge on a board. And the first person who can do so will win and stay in the game. And Kyle and Devin go first, where they have two different methods to get through this. While Kylan was taking his time and also being at a good pace and pulling them out, Devin was taking his time, but he was still dealing with a big ball of wires.
I think someone also said it like Devin just outsmarted himself in this game. Like he tried to I think he was trying to grab plugs before like actually unraveling them and doing all this other stuff, and it was just like honestly keep it simple stupid. Like KISS, you didn't need to do all of this extraness and try to make moves that didn't seem like you were doing much. Like at the end of the day, you're trying to win an elimination. And like I mentioned earlier, like Devin has come a long way physically for me in this game, seeing how he's played, but his mental has always been his strong suit. So you would think that he would use it to his advantage. And him and Kylan is a good matchup, to be honest. Like they both, so far in the seasons that they've done in the challenge, have shown that they can use their mental to their advantage and get strategy. But Devin just out strategized himself in this whole challenge. So when Kylan was just moving, like Kylan was literally halfway down to unplugging or like unraveling all of the plugs, and Devin had like a shit ton of like plugs on top of the contraption. I'm just like, bro, at this point, what are you doing? And I was not the only person who felt that sentiment. You can literally hear the people on the stage watching being like, yo, what is he doing? Like, we have no idea what Devin is doing. And it ultimately cost him. Like Kylan was just moving and doing what he had to do, but I don't think that Devin. I don't know what he was doing. Like he literally outsmarted himself in this situation.
Yeah, he really overdot his process because he didn't need to do that. He was trying to like also kind of cheat the system in a sense, where like, oh, I'm gonna like take a different route, but obviously it didn't work because you had to be able to pull the exact wires to that spot. Like just like picking randomly works for something, but when you're dealing with wires, that's a whole different ballgame because you have to untangle it and pull it. You can't just try and pull it and then not get to the point. But Kylan, like I said, good pace. He had good strategy. He got his first check and he had like only four left. Got a second one and he won. Like he fixed he did another he kept doing checks to fix where his mistakes were. All the while Devin was still doing crap because he only got two lights up. So once Kylan was able to fix where the things were, like, oh shit, it's really just that. And he was able to get all 40 of the season split up, and he won this nation. He stayed in the game.
Yep. Shout out to Kylan for beating another champ in another elimination.
Yeah. And then you move on to Tori and Casey, where they both were going fast and were both very neck and neck. They were just two off for a piece, but it just came down to the last second, literally, because they both put their buzzer seemingly at the same time, but Tori was able to hit the buzzer first. Like this was very a straightforward battle between the two of them.
For sure. It wasn't anything of interest. Like they literally were unraveling plugs. Like who gives a shit? Tori won. Casey goes home. And also I think Casey has decided to retire. So I couldn't be happier, to be honest.
Same, but now I gotta see her on TikTok live every blue moon.
I mean, that's your algorithm, not mine.
You're right. And with Tori winning, Casey goes home. And when they asked Casey what she wished she could have done differently, she said she wished she would have reined in Josh a little bit more. But I'm like, you're still blaming that man for your own game. Like, I think it's an individual game, to be honest, too. Not everybody can come. And he just happened to just be catching all the heat from you as well. You couldn't save yourself at all. So that's your fault.
1000%. I just think that Casey was completely delusional in how she handled the situation with Rachel, like going up to her and saying all that she said to her, and then trying to think that Josh could be able to help along with that. It was just like, girl, you're entitled as hell, and just need to go home at this point. Like, leave us alone.
Yep. And then TJ says at this moment on, this will be an individual game, but they'll still be representing their eras, and they still will have targets. They can choose anyone from any era to be a target. So Kylie and Tori, they chose the targets. Tori chose the men, and she literally chose all of Era Two's men except for Nehemiah and Derek, Brian, and Bananas. And Bananas is kind of like annoyed by that because he's like, oh, me and her are cool, but now like she's really gonna be playing Devin's pseudo game for the rest of the time.
Which I like I don't give a shit about these two to be honest, more or less. It's so the fact like she's trying to now keep Devin's quote unquote name alive in this situation. It's like, girl, pack it up. Like, yeah, you two won whatever challenge that was finally that you finally cracked open and won a season, but he's going home. So like let's leave that alone. Play your game. You won against your bestie or your brother. Like just keep it pushing.
And I would have thought like she would have like just cut the tie with Josh and made him a target. Because when Devin was like, oh, Devin said, oh, go after him. I was like, I immediately thought that she would choose Josh, but it was Bananas.
I mean, Bananas is more of a threat. Josh is not. This is the thing. Josh is not a threat. Like he's never been anywhere to a final. He's not a threat. So like, why would she choose him? Like he's gonna weed himself out, or they're gonna get his ass out regardless. And especially this being an individual game, if they don't get him out to target because of their whole vendettas against him, he's gonna purge out. Like, but Bananas is the one you need to worry about because Bananas has been sliding by. I don't care how old he is, how washed up he seems to be, like he can creep in and somehow get to the final. This is what he wants, essentially. So yeah, you need to continue to target him so that you can get him out.
Yeah, I totally do agree. And then Kylan decided to choose Rachel again, Aviv, and then poor Jenny. Like Jenny stayed getting hit for no reason. And I'm like, what do you have against that lady? But then I realized I'm like, I don't know. I don't realize nothing. I take that back. I don't know why Jenny keep getting hit.
I just think that she's known the least, and none of them had played with her. I mean, I was surprised that Kylan said her name. I think Kylan would have more of appreciation of someone who's been on the challenge for a season and won. You know what I mean? Like he becomes like a challenge super fan, so I think he would at least show some sort of semblance of appreciation for Jenny, and especially her going in like four different times for his team, or 3 different times, however many times it was. Like, she's been in there multiple times. So I was honestly surprised the fact that he did just went ahead and just chose Jenny again for really no seemingly reason. But it was mentioned that like things start to get personal, whatever. I think that was Corey, but I feel like at some point, like, you're just gonna have to start picking people off for whatever reason that you feel like it. And that's just what Kylan decided to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cause I'm like, now that I even think about it too, like of the women that are still left, he's not gonna say Laurel's name because they're somewhat cool. I don't know why he didn't say Kara's name. He can't say Naya's name because I don't know at this point were they still hooking up in the game. I don't know. And then obviously he's not gonna say Michelle or Lipus. So yeah, but like you said, like relationships will even matter more so going forward with it being individuals and not really being team decisions or team aspects of it. So yeah. And then Casey and Devin, they showed us for the first time in a while that they were casting their karma votes. And their votes were very unpredictable. Well, not predictable, very, very predictable, I would say.
Of course, I don't even know why this is still a thing. Like, we can't even keep up with this. We don't know the results. Like, yes, it's not going until the end, but why not just give us the whole reveal at the end? Like, I get the point of it, but also I don't, because it's like, what does this do? Like, who gets what? How does this what get what? All we are literally seeing is the people that they don't like getting voted ones, and the people that they like more are getting fives. So, what is this doing for any of us? I don't know.
And we barely saw other people like do karma votes the last couple weeks. Like they hinted at doing those like at the beginning of the season. In the last like couple episodes, we have not seen them cast their karma votes on air. They haven't been showing that. But this week they're like, oh, because it's Casey and Devin, they're gonna show it because they were like heavily into the storyline for the episode. I'm like, we haven't seen people cast karma votes in a while. But like the I don't know how it really will factor in. We'll see when it gets there. But they could have kept these votes not on air, and we could have got the explanation later on. But with that, that's the recap for the episode. I'm gonna get into some of the tweets from this week's episode. The first one is Devin doesn't wear deodorant, pounds beers, and can't untangle wires. I just know he has the most disgusting college dorm room ever.
Yeah, I don't even think about it. He already looks like he smells like wet dog, so I'm not surprised.
That rumor that he smells it still permeates in my head. So yeah. The next tweet. It comes initially from Josh. He says, I have a lot to say, but saving it all for the reunion. And Rachel quote tweeted saying, I'll tell you what, you are not a liability. Because Casey called that man liability, and Josh mentioned after this tweet, disappointed in that to say the least, because that's supposed to be your friend, and you say that man is a liability. That shows a lot.
Just because she wouldn't kiss ass, like, this shit is so stupid. Like, it's really dumb to the point where it's just like, I understand that Josh didn't say anything, but the fact that you went up to Rachel and tried to appease her because he has a relationship with her is actually more of a liability. Because why would you even do that?
Yep. Last week, speaking of, with Casey announcing her retirement from reality TV tonight, what is your favorite moment of hers?
The one where I turn my TV off and she's not on it.
Yeah. And I think it's the moments where I forget that she's even on the season and she pops up and says something. That's mine.
Yeah. I mean, goodbye, good riddance. I would say that you gave us like, I mean, she was a part of the demise of the last couple of seasons. I'm not gonna put it just solely on her, but her casting on this show, like, even I would say the first season that she was on with Bailey and Swaggy and all those people in D, like, even that I could have handled. Like, she wasn't doing much. You know what I mean? She was kind of there, really wasn't like really like garnered her furniture name, to be honest, because she really didn't move me or any way in shape or form in that season. So I thought she was cool. Like, I'm like, you know what? She seems like a strong player, footballer, whatever. Like, she can be cool. And then as the seasons got progressively worser and it got on, she literally just ruined the whole show in terms of how she carried herself, the way that she was entitled. And then even her win with CT that one season, it was just like, but did you really win though? Like, did you actually really win?
Yeah. I would say giving him another win, that's another favorite moment. That's it. Like there's nothing memorable really about her on this season, unless it's like Bailey yelling at her on their initial season. But that's it. She hasn't given me anything because she doesn't do anything.
And also her brother. Like I even forgot her brother was on the show too. Like they just are. I mean, not to say that, but like it's just like a lineage of like what are y'all even doing on TV? Like what's really tea? Like y'all really don't need to be on the show. And I'm glad she's not. And also Tori decided that this may be her last time too and she's taking a break, from back to back filming. Good. Y'all should have been did this shit. Like we are tired of seeing y'all faces. I don't know why y'all not tired of being on TV. Like I know y'all need money, but damn.
Yeah, when I saw Tori say that too, I was like, good luck and Godspeed. That's all I gotta say. Cause when she came on, I was like, whatever. Cause Tori is entitled too. Like that attitude about about things. It it felt like it kind of started with her. Cause like I was fine with like with the other representation from Ari the One being on the show. They weren't entitled, but after that first season she did, I the entitlement just like oozed off of her, and I'm like, it's made me not be excited to watch her on TV at times. Where like I part of the time I don't agree with what she does on the show because it doesn't give anything.
Not for sure. I'm not even gonna break down the reasons why I don't want to see her on my show, but good luck, sis.
And with that, that is the end of this episode.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We'll be back to discuss more. We got also the like mid-season trailer of the show, so there should be a little bit more juicy drama happening towards the end of the season, continuing on. So hopefully it's like better shown than edited because sometimes when that thing is edited, it gives something, and then when it's shown, it's shit. So hopefully we don't get the worst. We don't get the latter. Thank you guys for listening. Though, if you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can at Dual Lines Pod. You can follow us individually. You can follow Megan at Megan Hines, and you can follow myself at Ace_S5. If you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, like we're gonna post this on YouTube, but you're not watching it. So if you're listening to this podcast on YouTube as well and would like to listen to the podcast just audibly, you can. But you can also have the YouTube Dual Lines podcast where you can watch like other episodes and see our faces talk about this. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll be back next week to discuss more of the challenge. Bye.